In medical communities, depression is still a condition with great mystery behind it because it's misunderstood. Recovery is also compromised. In this episode, I will reveal the key triggers of depression and how you can begin to break free of this imprisonment. This is a big deal today. Depression affects so many of us. It's widespread, it's global. And it's something that when you experience it, it can be really rough. No one understands if they've never been in it. There are a lot of different varieties of depression. It's a word we use when something is not feeling right. No one experiences depression all the same. Putting it all in one bag is not a great thing. So when we do that, we kind of negate all the different varieties and what can be going on and how it works. And so it's important to understand all these. Some people have a little bit of sadness that they can't describe or they can't explain. They don't know why it's happening. Some people have chronic sadness where there are no breaks. There are also people who have just a loss of interest where they're not interested in anything anymore. They can't describe it, they can't explain it. One of the biggest triggers are emotional blows, getting an emotional blow, an emotional hit. Basically, what happens when we get some bad news delivered to us? What happens is we have a real physical shock that occurs in the brain. Of great proportion, electrical surge occurs. So, when we're handed bad news like a loved one has passed or a spouse has cheated on us, or we've been betrayed, what happens is an emotional shock fires off in the brain. Like electrical shock treatment. Now, everybody handles the blows differently, this electrical charge to be more or less intense. Someone might be able to handle it differently. Someone else, they can deal with it. And then, you have someone really sensitive where that electrical charge can put them in bed for months. There's a built-in mechanism in our bodies, in our brain that flicks the switch so that further damage isn't done. Temporary depression can occur. They can be depressed for 3 days, 5 days with bad news, and then come out of it. And when this happens too many times, and if you're a sensitive person, that mechanism breaks down. And what occurs is these little, mini microstrokes. What happens is this emotional part of the brain starts to get inflamed. This is why people get even more emotionally shaky and they get numbed. And then, they get depressed later on. Depression could set either shortly after that or even later on. And even when the problems are gone, you could be depressed a year later from this. So, even if you had the bad news a year ago, your girlfriend or boyfriend broke up with you, or whatever's happening in your life, maybe a loss of a loved one, as it goes on, the depression can hit 6 months later and totally slam you because of this inflammatory process from that electricity that occurs. What happens is it's a neuron meltdown. These are neurons melting down. They're clustering. These are clusters of neurons that melt down and they bind together and they get baked. They're baked under intense electrical shock or continuous electrical shock, and electrical heat inside the brain that causes these neurons to cook like an egg in a pan. And when we have too many emotional blows at this level, and it's happening all the time, we get in trouble. Our safety mechanisms to stop depression from emotional shock starts to break down over time. There's another trigger, chronic adrenal fatigue. That alone can cause depression, chronic adrenal fatigue. Even mild adrenal fatigue, if your adrenals are a little bit overactive, we can get little bouts of depression, or if they're underactive, little bouts of depression. Our neurotransmitters, actually, they work off of the adrenaline that pumps out of us. There's communication between that. And what happens is when we're under stress, our adrenaline can get more corrosive and more problematic. Our adrenals, they can oversurge and flood our system. And that is corrosive to our neurotransmitters and neurons. They go up and down, they lose that homeostasis. That's what happens with that. There's another thing that causes depression as well, viral infection. Many people have low-grade viral infections and viruses create a neurotoxin. They create a neurotoxin that shorts out electrical impulses, that shorts out neurons, neurotransmitters. So many people, they have a low-grade virus and that's causing their depression. It can give them brain fog. It can make them disconnected. It can make them feel like they're not awake. It can make them feeling all kinds of different feelings, including depression. And then, there are people that have heavy metal toxicity, heavy metals, mercury in the brain, causing oxidation. Heavy metals in the brain alone can be something that triggers depression for a lifetime for someone. We could suffer a lifetime with the worst forms of depression, going all the way to the most extreme to dangerous levels of depressions. And mercury tends to oxidize tissue and it runs off. Runs off means it bleeds. It tends to oxidize and it tends to run off into other tissue, causing depression and all kinds of varieties of depression. And then there's pesticides, herbicides, fungicides that we not only ingest, but we get exposed to. Those can create depression as well. There are different kinds of things in chemicals, tons of poisonous copper, tons of mercury that are in pesticides. So, we deal with that too. So if you're getting your house sprayed, think twice about that. If you're getting an exterminator coming into the home, you might want to think about that one too. MSG, monosodium glutamate, builds up in people, and it short-circuits electrical impulses, neurotransmitters and neurons. That's a dangerous one. It's a hidden one. It's in natural flavors. And natural flavors are in food. MSG buildup alone can cause depression. So, let's talk about some of the things we can do. Very important, cilantro. You can put it in your juice. You could put it with your celery juice, your straight celery juice. Smoothies, put a little cilantro in your smoothies. This is incredible. For pesticides, herbicides, heavy metals of all kinds, mercury, this is an incredible way of helping yourself of getting it out of your system. Spinach helps with depression. Use it, raw spinach. You can make a raw spinach soup. You throw it in the blender with some tomatoes. That's one way of getting spinach in you. You can have a spinach salad. Spinach is really important. That helps because there's a tremendous amount of chlorophyll in spinach, really bioactive chlorophyll that binds onto a lot of poisons. Walnuts. Walnuts are fantastic for depression. Have just a handful a day if you're dealing with depression. If you bring all these in every single day, and don't skip a few days, you'll see the depression starting to slip away a little bit. Wild blueberries, that one is incredible. It's an all-time antidepressant, these wild blueberries. Wild blueberries are so high in polyphenols that go into the brain and pull out poison and repair emotional injuries, repair emotional damage. Repair the physical parts of the brain that we talk about. Oranges, great one for depression of any kind. Sprouts are incredible. They clean the liver, they clean the brain, they detox the brain. Brain detox is a lot different than liver detox, but sprouts do both. They detox the liver and detox the brain. It's kind of like the best way to go. Avocado. It's very nurturing like breast milk when you're a baby and you need breast milk. Hemp seeds, fantastic food to overcome depression. Let's talk about the top supplements for depression. B12, the right kind of B12, with adenosylcobalamin. That's for the brain. That's for the restoring the brain. Hawaiian spirulina, not California spirulina, not spirulina from other places, but Hawaiian spirulina. They're critical for removing heavy metals in the brain that really help with depression. Niacin, supports the endocrine system. Helps to knock back viruses, low-grade viral loads. Ester-C, is a vitamin C and it is fantastic for neurotransmitter support. It supports the adrenal glands. That's a great one. Melatonin helps repair brain tissue. Lemon balm, it's anti-inflammatory for the brain. That's a great one for depression. PharmaGABA, that helps too. That one supports neurotransmitters. It calms the central nervous system. B complexes, a really good B complex is great support. And magnesium. So, if you're someone that gets depressed, magnesium should be on your list. Magnesium glycinate. Look at the description below the video, you can find links to the best possible supplements for healing depression. So, I hope that you got some good information today about depression. If you want to get daily information about health, please subscribe.